Hello, this is Bronson, and this is my first take of a video log. I decided to do this because I'm too lazy to type, and I thought it'd be a good change. So, ideally, you can play my video and listen to the audio and scroll down through the pictures as I'm going to do, and enjoy the stories. So the first picture there is from the library, and that's Easton and Layla on our we went for a family trip there, and they just eat up the books. We walked away with a grocery paper sack full of new books, and they just eat them up. So going out the door, Easton was very disappointed that I told him to put a specific book away, and he begged me to let him have it. It's hard to see on the picture there because of the glare, but it says, "Do people really chase twisters?" Or people who really chase twisters. So anyways, it's about, storm chasers, and apparently that was really high on his list of reading material, so I let him have it. So we don't encourage them or steer them towards the earth science stuff, but Layla spent all her time in the fictional Princess Disney section, and Easton spent all his time in the weather, earth science, volcano section. So we buy the books, or we get the books from the library that they want and take them home, and they eat them up. Now the next picture there is from Easton when he's playing soccer. The kinder bought them each a very cheap foam soccer ball, which actually still hurt when you get hit with them at close range. I know this because they were firing them at me together at the same time, and I was having to field both of the soccer balls and return them to them so we can play essentially catch. And one of those times didn't work out so well for me, but that's what happens when you have twins kicking the soccer ball at you. So Easton's more calculated, so he'd run up and boot the ball and kick it as hard as he could, and it would go a half mile. But Layla was more of the technical dribbler across the grass and would kick it a little bit, and then you're frustrated because it didn't go as far as his brothers. Anyways, that was a new thing for us to do down on the Greenbelt, and they loved every minute of it. They grew up on me somewhere along the way, and now they are out of their car seats, the same ones we brought them home from the hospital in that lasted exactly 4 years, but now their legs are getting so long that they're continually kicking the back of our chair. So according to the official guidelines of the Arizona state law, we can upgrade them to these other new seats. And as you can tell by their looks on their faces and Layla's aggressive finger pointing that she is excited and he is excited about their new look. And I turned around again some other day and looked back, and Easton was just lounging there. He had his legs crossed and his arm up on the armrest and just chatting and looking around up in the sky. And I thought, man, what happened? Where did this boy come from? He's just grown up. It feels like overnight, and just simply changing from the baby car seats into these gives him a whole new sense of freedom with his own special cup holder. So we took when we were at the library, we found they had these cultural passes and basically get you 2 free tickets to the Arizona Children's Museum. And then we got there, and Kinder went to pay with her Bank of America debit card and realized that Bank of America customers get 2 free tickets, or 1 free for each person. So Kinder and I showed our cards, and we all 4 got in free this day. It was the first time to the Children's Museum, which Kinder's been wanting to go for a long time, and I didn't really know what to expect inside of there, but basically it was like if you go to McDonald's and you go to the playland, it's that small area that the kids run around in, except this is a 3-story tall playland like what they have at McDonald's. So it was a crazy monstrosity of all kinds of ways to scamper up, and it had this like fencing that was around it to keep the kids safe. So there was basically 2 ways up and 2 ways down, for the first floor, and that was it. But they had a blast climbing up in there, and of course they asked me to go, and so I did. It was me and 1 other adult, along with about 30 other little kids running around, but I didn't mind. It was a lot of fun, and they have a good time inviting me along and showing me how to get up in there and walk around, although some of the spaces were so cramped that I lost even more of my hair off the top of my head because I kept scraping the top where the wire was, and my hair would get caught and pull it right out. But that's the hazards of playtime, and I didn't mind. And they had a lot of other weird, cool things. There was this piping. You can see the picture with Easton and Layla there. You shove these little material balls into the hole, and then it's blowing air, and it would blow the ball all through those little tubes and then shoot it out, and then you go find the ball and put it back in there. So Easton could have spent at least a half hour just doing that over and over and over again. But it was a 3-story complex full of little places like that. Now, the next picture of Easton standing behind the little girl was to point out that this is one of the things that I noticed, at least in the differences of who they are, as opposed to other kids, because there was this little baby who, she was 1 or something, and she barely could walk up to it, and Easton was standing patiently behind her, waiting for her to get her ball in, and he was actually kind of helping her there towards the end. But it struck me as I was proud of him for that moment, because most kids just would run the girl right over. Like, they would have pushed the 1-year-old right out of the way and then just shoved the ball in there and away they go. But Easton was waiting patiently. He's learned very well manners, and that's a rarity, what I'm finding more and more in kids. But I was really proud that he was able to just let her have her space and do her thing and get in there, and I think it's probably because he's so used to letting Layla take the stage and do what she needs to do first. There was a whole other area of the Children's Museum that was basically like a shopping center, and they had all this fake food and little child-sized carts, and you can see her Layla's pushing the cart around and buying stuff, and then they have a checkout lane, and Easton was the cashier. It was interesting, but I couldn't believe how their specific taste, like Layla bent down and there was 2 choices between some kind of juice, whatever, and she grabbed the one she liked and put it in her cart. And yeah, it was almost like grown-ups shopping through, making decisions on what to buy, but they had a fun time with that. And then the next to that was a kitchen area where you pretend to bake stuff. They had like a pizza stone and a wood fire pizza place, and then they had a stove and an oven. So Easton and Layla cooked us up a good pasta and meat pizza, and that was good to see their teamwork in there. But the aprons were an extra special touch that they liked to get dressed up, of course. Now they had this other place. It was a room full of fabric walls, and then just piles of these words that were sewn onto material pieces. And so Layla grabbed the silly one, of course, and she was silly. So it was pretty easy to get a picture of that. This other one was, I found these two, man and boy, and I took this picture because it's one of my books that I've been reading. It's called Man vs. Boy by Ken Ventura, and I thought it was very interesting to be able to find those 2 words and show there's Easton and there's me. We're kind of stuck to the wall ourselves. But that list is almost like a measuring stick. It's a gauge of the work I have ahead of me for Easton. So that list of Man vs. Boy is where I want to get Easton when he gets out of the house when he turns 21 or whenever we kick him out. But that's my list. So if you look at that, then if you click on the link now, it's going to shut the video down. But anyways, that's a list of all the character traits of what you see in boys and versus what you see in men. And you can actually have a boy who is 50 years old, and I've seen a lot of that. But I'm hoping, and I'm actively working on getting Easton so that he becomes a man before he leaves the house, and those are the kind of traits that I'm working on. So if you want to know what I'm up to and what I spend my spare time doing, is figuring out ways of bringing him into those steps of manhood and teaching him as early as I can of how to do that. So on the silly side of things, there was this other it was a cactus that had a little turning wheel, and then you stick stuffed animals to the cactus and then turn the wheel and it rotates the animals up towards the top, and then there's a ceiling fan that hits the stuffed animal and knocks it across the room. And as you can imagine, kids love that, and especially since Easton's really big into owls right now, he had a good time putting the owl stuffed animal on there and then watching the ceiling fan knock it off across the room. There's just a whole ton of those little things all over the Children's Science Museum. And they had a fake ice cream stand. So Layla, of course, was serving, and Easton wants chocolate. And then they would scoop up the little pretend ice cream balls and put it in a cone and share. So maybe Layla's going to be an ice cream like a chocolatier or a barista, or I guess, I don't know what you would call somebody who stands behind an ice cream cone counter, but she seemed to really like that. And of course, Easton loved the idea of getting the ice cream. There's other things like vehicles, and one of those is a motorcycle, so Layla jumped on that one and was having a good time pretending to be roaming across there. And then Kendra, being the interactive mom she is, jumped on there too. And now you see where Layla gets her freeness and excitement. But there were some other areas like a craft place where we just sat down at the table and were able to make a little dragon thing with popsicle sticks and glue. And I have no idea how Easton and I didn't walk away with our hands glued together. But luckily it wasn't super glue, it was just those sticky stuff you get from the schools. There was one other place where they had a ball, and you put it on top of this place that was tacked against the wall, and it would roll all the way down across the entire room. So it rolled down this track that was against the wall, and Easton was just amazed by that. And that's kind of that's how his mind works. And so there's actually the two words that I have come up with for Easton. For Easton and Layla, I was trying to think of what's one word that I can use to describe Easton and Layla. And for Easton, I've come up with the word of aware. And that means having or showing realization, perception, or knowledge. And for him, that's what I think is most important to Easton, is he has that awareness about him. He's always aware. He's very mindful of what he's doing. So I think that's probably the best word I can think of to describe him at age turning 4. And for Layla, I found vivacious. That means lively in temper, conduct, or spirit, or sprightly. So maybe sprightly is the more appropriate word, but I did like vivacious. That's about it for the Children's Museum. Lots of fun. It was free. It was hours of good family time, but I'm not paying $200 for an annual membership. That's crazy. So for Layla, she had over her friend Lulu. So we had Layla and Lulu. And Easton had over his friend Will. So Kendra got to experience what it would like to have quads at this age. And all I can say is, thank God it wasn't us that had quads. And God bless those people who were able to manage that. Because it looked like a pretty chaotic time. I'm sure she did well. I was at work hiding behind my desk in my cubicle, not coming home. But they had, of course, dress-up time for Layla, because that's her favorite thing to do in the whole world, is to dress up like princesses, and she was more than happy to share with her friend Lulu and get her into the Cinderella outfit. And I'm just glad she wasn't like a 10-year-old, because otherwise she would have never fit and been able to share with all that stuff. But they had a good time. So Kendra made it fun for them, and having 4 mouths to feed and 4 kids to watch, it wasn't that much different from what she said, but I'm just really glad it was her and not me managing that household. So I guess that's about it. We'll see how many takes this actually takes me to get it done right, but that's probably the end. I know I have a Tap Out t-shirt on, but the reality is it was $5 at Ross, and that's why I'm wearing it. It has nothing to do with my interest in martial arts or thuggery. It's just a matter of I'm at home and I don't care, and it's $5. So that's just the way my mind works, is I would rather not spend money on t-shirts wearing around the house and find better things to do with my money, like buy more toys and clothes for Easton and Layla, I guess. That's it. Hope you enjoyed the video log, and we'll see how this turns out. And it was good. We'll do it again sometime. Bye-bye.